And so you may ask yourself, what is future casting and how can we possibly plan for the future? And the answer is, I don't know. Like, I honestly probably have no business speaking about this, but I decided, given by Nobel Peace Prize winners, I think they're sort of smarter than I am, so I'm going to quote them. One of them said that the future cannot be predicted, but futures can be invented. And the other one said, the way to cope with the future is to create it. So we're going to do that today. And I do have to give you a warning. I have personally completed all of the steps of this future casting, and I am using myself as an example in this talk. And so my next chapter, my future casting, involves my best self as a traveler. Like, I am traveling in my next chapter. And so you are going to see more pictures than you've ever wanted to see of Jenny traveling. Yay! So that's my disclaimer. I would also say grab a piece of paper and a pen, because there's going to be some activities that you can start doing to kind of get your juices flowing. So if you have handy a notebook and a pen, that would be great. All right, so what is future casting? Great question. Whoa, my slides are just like all over the place. Okay, so what is future casting? So future casting is a term that is borrowed from the strategic thinking business world. And I just borrowed it for mental health. There's no future casting in mental health. I just took a business model and I tried to make it into a mental health model. But basically, think about this as a process that helps businesses understand, you know, kind of a future timeline and gives them ideas of how to develop experiences to build that future. So imagine that we're a car company and we're all sitting at a big table and we're envisioning what flying cars look like in 2030, right? And how do we even know what the world is going to look like in 2030? And how can I even think about what kind of flying cars I want to build? And so imagine that this is a similar process. We're sort of brainstorming about how we build ourselves in the future. And so future casting has a couple steps. There are 6. These are really fancy words, but you know, when people build theories, they want to sound magic. And so don't get nervous about the wording, but basically the future casting process is there's expert testimony, there's a synthesis process, there's rapid future casting, there's science fiction prototyping. That's my favorite part. There's backcasting, and then there's reporting. And so these are the 6 steps that we're going to go through. And again, imagine that you're at, you know, GM Motors or whatever, and you're trying to figure out, like, what are we going to do for our future? And I mean, the future is so unclear. How do we even know? So let's start with expert testimony. This is really my world. This is the mental health world. And this is where we start out with, who am I? What do I want? How am I supposed to contribute? And so I am going to give us 5 ways to see ourselves better in this first part. This expert testimony is going to be really dense because it's going to be like ways that we get to be the expert of ourselves. Like, who am I and what am I doing? So let's start with, who are you? So the easiest way, remember, we're gonna learn 5 ways. The easiest way is to ask others and do research, right? Go ask people who knows you best, who has seen you at your best, and who has seen you at your worst. And ask others, when do you see me as my best, most relaxed self? When am I my most empowered? When am I my happiest self? And then you want to take all of this feedback and you want to kind of see what rings true. You know, just because your neighbor says something doesn't mean it's true, but I mean, it's kind of nice to get feedback from the people who know you and ask, like, when am I kind of my most best self? You could also take personality tests, right? There's like a million. You just Google them. Like, take a million different personality tests. You don't have to pay money. And you can get to know what your values and your belief systems are through these tests. And if you want, you could Google the term core values list, and then you circle values that are important to you. I went on the internet this morning and I looked up Brene Brown values list, right? And there were literally like 3 pages of values. And so just download one of those lists And then circle, like, oh yeah, this is a value that's important to me. Oh yeah, this is a value that's important to me. So you don't have to spend any money to do this, but that's the quickest way, right? Is to ask others and maybe take some tests, or do some things that kind of help illuminate you as to like, where are you right now? And wherever we were a year ago, we're probably not there now. So it's probably good, even if you've done this in the past, to kind of redo it. Like, let's assess, where are we? And the second way, sorry, I'm choking. The second way to kind of figure out what we're doing and what our foundation is to figure out who's our best self. When is your best self? When are you the most happy, most delighted, most open? When is your most content time? And all of us can probably remember a time when we were our best self. And as you can see, based on this slideshow, my best self is my traveling self. It's when I'm my most relaxed, I'm my most at peace. And so you're going to go there. You're going to remember it. You're going to put a picture out there, and you're going to remember your clothing and how old you were and the characteristics and what made it your best self. Like, why is that your best self? Maybe it was when you were in college, or when you were in high school, or maybe it was 2 years ago. But why is it that this is your best self? And for me, I would say that my best self is definitely a fearless self. It's an open, awake, more curious, physically healthy self. It's a self that's kind of chomping and taking on the world. And so you want to get a really clear picture of who that person is, because that's you. And so we're going to try to figure that out. So write yours down, take a few seconds and kind of, maybe after this talk, really sit there and think, like, when was I my best self? Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is go on a self-paced exploration. I have 3 favorite books that I have literally highlighted, underlined, tagged the corners of the paper. Like, these are my go-to books. And these all have kind of activities to do at the end of each chapter, so that they ask you questions about yourself. So the first one is Artist Way by Julia Cameron. It's a 12-week process. You read a chapter and then you do the exercises at the end of the book. It's a standby. It's classic. And so it's always my go-to. Fire Starter Sessions is a new one that kind of came out a few years ago. Again, it's very like, do these activities. So it kind of takes you through a process. And then Writing to Awaken is kind of a journaling thing where you just keep going deeper and deeper and you kind of excavate. So if you don't want to go to a therapist, if you don't want to ask somebody else, do it on your own terms. These books are very inexpensive if you get them in the e-version or whatever. And I mean, I'm sure we can find these at Bookman's. And then another way to kind of figure out like who we are and what our foundation is, if I don't want to ask others, if I don't want to do a deep dive, if that's too much work of kind of excavating my own personal self, go and figure out what breaks your heart in this world. And there are like a million things. Just open your window, watch the news. There will be 50 things that break your heart. And so write down 3 things that just make you mad about right now. And so like, let's just take a few seconds and just do that. Just take a few seconds and just write down 3 things that just make you mad. And these are things that you care about so deeply that you would fight with somebody. Like you would literally argue with them over it. And this could be your passion. This could be your motivation. This could help you see your values. So I know right now for a lot of the students that I'm working with at Thrive, toxic masculinity is high on their list. That is an issue that is near and dear to their hearts, and they would fight. They would fight for that. And so think about, what's out in the world that you're looking at, that you're thinking, okay, this really needs to be addressed, and I care deeply about it. The interesting thing about this is once you kind of figure out what you're so passionate about, go backwards and say, why? Why do I care so deeply about teenage pregnancy? Why do I care so deeply about drinking and driving? What is this that's fueling me? And that is also going to give you a lot of information about yourself and your foundation. By the way, that's me in India, and I am in a hospital because my asthma was terrible. And then here's the last technique, and this is my favorite, and I'm going to give you mine in just a few minutes, but this is my favorite technique. And basically what you do is you kind of create yourself as a character in a movie. So you sort of watch yourself as if you were the lead character in a movie, and the movie was all about you, and you're going through all these life trials. And basically you break your movie down into 5 to 10 year intervals. So, maybe birth through 20, there wasn't that much exciting stuff going on. And then maybe it got really, really rich and juicy around 20 to 25. And then maybe it got really good around 25 to 30, because that's when you had children or whatever. So go through your life and break it down into like 10 to 5 year intervals. This can be a kind of a quick activity. You kind of break it down and then write down in that little section, like that 5-10 year thing, what did I care about? How did I spend my time? And list like major kind of moments, like I had my first child, I graduated from college, like kind of do the big picture highlights. And you're not writing the script. I'm not asking you to write a novel or your memoir. This is just kind of like an outline where you're kind of breaking down your life into moments. And this moment for me, this picture is me on the Mediterranean, and I'm celebrating my 40th birthday. And so like it was kind of a big thing for me to say, I'm honoring myself. I'm honoring my own journey. Okay, so after we've done that self-exploration and we've asked an expert, we've taken the tests, we've figured out what our best self is. Maybe we wrote down like our life in a little series of segments. Maybe we looked at what we were passionate about. Now we summarize all that. So what am I supposed to do with all this information? I did this deep dive. I answered some of my journaling questions. Now what? And so in this synthesis moment, this is the second step. Now we bring all of this together. So we take all of our research and our strengths and our joy, and we kind of put it all together, and we write a summary. We kind of write a summary of who we are on this earth. What are our shadow aspects? What are our positive aspects? And so for me, I have like a 5-page document that's literally like all of the traits that, all these different personality tests say that I have, like I'm an NFP and I'm a number 4 in the life path as a teacher, and my Enneagram is a 7. And so like I put together this huge document that kind of entails all these different aspects and traits of myself. And I kind of put it all together, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of who I am. This is kind of who I am on this planet. And then I also took that like movie of my life, and I kind of made a story about it, and I gave it a title. So this is mine. This is my example of Jenny as the lead character of her movie. I called it Playing Jenny in Search of a Through Line. And that's a reference from my acting days. But I would say, the first section of my movie, when I come onto the screen, right, my first section is play. For the first 20 years, I played. I was kind of a fluffy kid playing around doing theater. And then the second part of my movie is that there was a moment of suffering. The wind came and blew my house down. The wind came and destroyed my house. And so then section 3 of my movie would be, I started seeking. I went outside, I went to the university. I was looking around myself for teachers and books and activities to enrich myself. Then I went inside and I started doing my own journey around meditation and journaling and journeying. And so I went inside, and then there was this section where there was no path. I was just like floating around in this really unsatisfying job money cycle. And then the last part of my movie so far, as far as my life goes, right now, my last part of my movie is to stop seeking and to step into my authentic self. There's nothing out there. It's like, step in. And so that's my movie so far. Now, your movie might look really different, right? But I'm just sharing this with you as kind of a summary process to say, this is kind of what I've done so far in my journey. And I think it's really important that before we write the next chapter, we've got to go back and look at what were the previous chapters? Like, what was our past? What did we come from before we build on this great, glorious future? So authenticity is your foundation. And so as we did research about our personalities, our best selves, our values, as we looked at the passion and the theme of our lives, Then we put it together. Who is Jenny and what is the story of her life? And this is the vital foundation. You know, the three pigs, right, that they lost their house. And then the third pig built kind of this solid base, kind of a brick home that the wolf couldn't blow down. And so this is the vital foundation. I need to be comfortable with me and who I am. I need to accept my path and where I came from. I need to trust myself. I need to know what my strengths and my values are and what is true for me. And I need to do that before I go forward, because if I'm going to put an offering out into the world, or if I'm going to be of service, I need to know what I came from. So then the third step of this future casting process is called rapid future casting. And this is basically a fancy way to say brainstorm, like they have to use their words, right? So once we're in alignment with our truth, we know where we came from, we've got this foundation, then go and brainstorm the future. And so this is the activity that we're going to do. So take out a piece of paper, and I want you to just start these two pieces. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to get into them because we don't really have that kind of time, but at least you can start it and you can trigger your mind. So I want you to number your paper from 1 to 20. And I want you to just list every single thing that you may want to try or do in the future. I mean, literally anything, from, I want to get a DJ board and learn how to DJ, to like, I want to go to Pittsburgh. So brainstorm future experiences that you want to bring into your world, and, brainstorm. So don't judge, don't evaluate, just write as fast as possible, 1 through 20. And then if you're stuck, if you're like, Jenny, I can only come up with 3, that is probably because you didn't do the deep dive, that first step, which is when we became the expert of ourselves. So once you've kind of figured out where you've been and what you care about and what your values are, you can definitely come up with ideas. So I'm just going to say that for the record. And so just take a few seconds and just jot down some ideas. And granted, you're not going to be able to fill out 1 through 20, but just put down some ideas. Like I want to open up a gelato shop on the corner. When I came back from Peru, I wanted to do smoothies for the college students on the mall. And in Peru, they do a smoothie especial, and it's a smoothie with a beer in it. So I thought this would be a great hit on campus. I'm going to make smoothies especial. And so anyway, so just put down, whatever pops into your head, no judgment. Okay, and now I want you to turn it over or get another piece of paper, and we're going to do the second activity, because maybe some of you are like, I'm not linear. I don't think like that, Jenny. I can't just write a list of 1 through 20 and write down all the things that I want to do in my future. So let's make a mind map. So a mind map is basically when we put a concept in the middle and then we popcorn all around it. We kind of just write any word that pops into our brain. So if you have a blank piece of paper, or you turn your paper over on the other side and you write future in the middle of it, future, then just write every single word that comes to your mind. And like, you might put macaroni and cheese in there because you're hungry for lunch. So just do it. Like, don't worry about what you're putting in there. You're just going to popcorn it out. Let your mind explore. Take 5 or 10 minutes and just write as fast as possible. Don't have any judgment. Don't worry about if it means anything. Just spontaneously popcorn it in. Put it in there. So let's just take a few seconds and popcorn it up. This is the brainstorming process of our future. Okay, as you're popcorning, I'm going to move on to this next slide. This is kind of an example of what one might look like. This isn't mine, but I mean, I found this on the internet, but it's like, you might just put a bunch of ideas out there and kind of popcorn it up. And then the next piece that I would say is, it doesn't matter what's in there, right? It doesn't matter. You're not publishing it. It's literally to play. You're dreaming. So if you want to be a DJ and create remixes, if you want to volunteer at a shelter, if you want to learn to play the flute or start a nonprofit, if you want to open up a pizza shop, plan a wedding, become a rapper. These are some of the things my students are doing right now. If you want to travel across the pond, if you want to backpack through Spain, if you want to design a fashion line, if you want to build a podcast, if you want to learn to garden, if you want to raise chickens. So many of my friends have been raising chickens during the pandemic. This isn't really about money. This isn't really about career. So don't get all stopped up in like, oh, this has to be something that I make money. No, this is just a brainstorming of ideas of what I want in my future. And so just whatever you'd like to try, whatever seems like something fun that you'd like to do. And here's what I'll say. If your dreams are based in your authenticity, right? If you did that number one piece of the exercise and you really got in touch with who you are and what your values are, if your dreams are a part of that extension of that value, then your dreams are in harmony with the world's dreams. So if you have a plan that you're going to open up a gelato shop and that's part of your authentic truth, the universe is going to support that because it's part of you unfolding and becoming a real awesome human on the planet. So again, don't worry so much about like, oh, I got to make money or is this a career path? Just put out there, play, have fun, pick things. Okay, so what I would say is no matter what you picked, if you picked the list of 21, if you picked the list of 20 activities, circle one that feels really juicy, circle one that feels really delicious, like I love this idea, or circle one on the mind map that you popcorned out and circle one that just feels really good. Pick one. I mean, there's time, right? You could do all of them, but let's just pick one for the next bit of this piece. Okay, so the fourth part of this future casting process is called science fiction prototyping. Woo! And this is the most important part, and this is the part where most people skip. And actually, in the literature that I was reading about future casting, this is the area that most people don't want to do in businesses. They hate this part. So I think this is probably the most important part. And so basically what you do is in this fourth section, once you've kind of put down your idea of what you want to do, you then imagine yourself doing it. So that's why it's called science fiction prototyping. It's so fancy. But basically you're going into the future. By the way, that is me next to Sophia. I am in the future with an AI robot. Okay, so you're going to pick one thing and you're going to imagine that you're in the future doing it. And you've actually already done it. So let's pick DJing because a lot of my students right now are trying to be rappers and DJs. So let's imagine that you are a rapper and you are a DJ and you have your setup in your house. You already have been booked at clubs in Miami for 5 months from the future, and you've already done it. You're already a DJ. You know what you're doing. You feel confident about your skills. And so what you're going to do is you're going to kind of sit and imagine that that has already happened. Maybe you're in your hotel room celebrating that you got your first big gig. Maybe it was a sold out house of 100,000 people, whatever it is. And so you're just going to sit there and kind of enjoy and dream and pretend as if it already happened. And what are all the details of this? And how do you feel? And isn't it exciting that you're in Ibiza and you're the DJ? And how amazing is that? And so you just kind of take a few seconds and just feel it, like feel that future self that's doing that thing, that has completed that thing. And so for me, you know, it's no secret that I want to travel. And so I have a trip planned. And so I literally imagine myself there in the destination, and I'm journaling on the river, and I'm so happy, and I've got my backpack, and I've got my hiking shoes on, and I'm like there, I'm in the city. And I've gone across the pond and I'm traveling again. And so it's like, just sit there and kind of just, absorb, all that magic of like, oh, how fun this is that I've made it. I think envisioning the future is actually really, really important. And what future casting people in the business world would say is you need to really break it down into 3 sections. So you can't just sit there and be like, this is so awesome, I made it. You really have to break it down and say, okay, imagine yourself experiencing the new thing. Then imagine that something goes wrong, right? Something goes wrong. So in my world with travel, I've planned a trip for October, but I know full well that the world may not be ready for me to travel in October. So I may have to cancel. I may have to push and delay that trip again and do it, maybe do it in January. So I'm going to imagine that weird something wrong is happening. And then I just course correct and I adjust. And so I say, okay, well, the trip didn't happen in October, but it'll happen in January or it'll happen in March, and it's a total success and it's everything that I wanted, and the stores are open and the experiences are there and people are there and I'm having a good time. So basically in this future casting process where you're imagining the future, you really want to go into details. You really want to see it because you want to figure out what are the stumbling blocks that could get in the way? What are the problems that could occur? What support do you need? I realized when I was imagining my great, beautiful future that I'm severely out of shape and I have not worn shoes for an entire year. So that might propose a problem as I'm walking 9 miles a day in a foreign city. So I was like, oh, the stumbling blocks are I need to get in shape. I also might need some hiking shoes. I might need to start walking out of my house. So that's a stumbling block. That's sort of a support of like, you can't put on a backpack and just go. You've taken 3 steps from your desk to the bathroom. That's all of your exercise that you've done in an entire year. Like, you're going to plan a backpacking trip. So, I mean, that is a real stumbling block. That is a real detail that I cannot afford to overlook. And so I have to start thinking about the short-term things right now, like, oh, maybe I should go and walk around Sabino Canyon. So my next trip might be delayed, but I can still plan. The goalpost might be moved, but I'm still moving towards this plan by, getting hiking shoes and putting my feet to the pavement. And then the other piece that they say about this process is that you practice systematic abandonment, which I absolutely hate that term. So I really didn't like it. So I called it unpacking the backpack. But the term in the future casting world is systematic abandonment. But basically, it's that you're letting go of things that you don't need. So you're going to review at regular intervals what can be scaled back, what can be eliminated, what can I let go of, what's no longer needed, what do I need to avoid, what wasn't supportive. So I've done a lot of world travel. So I have busted out my travel journals and I'm reviewing like, what didn't work? What do I not need to bring? I always bring so much weird things in my backpack. And I'm always like, do I need all this stuff? No. And so like I'm going through and I'm pulling things out of my backpack. What do I not need to carry anymore? And let's just say you're not planning a trip. This is a psychological journey for you. Then unpack what friendships need to be rethought of, what relationships need to be reassessed. Unpack it. Take the rocks out of the backpack. By the way, that is me with 2 backpacks. And as you can see, I look like a pack mule and I am happy about that. So this is a big part of this future casting, is to stop and really say, what isn't working about this journey? So again, this is all in the guise of this science fiction of like kind of imagining yourself. Okay, and the 5th step is called backcasting. And this is nothing. This is basically once you have the big, beautiful future, you go backwards and you kind of create your goals backwards. So it's kind of like we do with our students, right? We say, okay, graduation is in sight. What do you have to do to get there, right? We've got to finish these 12 units. You've got to sign up for this thing. You've got to submit your SAP appeal or whatever. And so we kind of engineer backwards. We kind of imagine the future for the students, and then we go backwards. And so that's really important. And so that's what this process is. It's kind of just a step backwards. Okay, wait, I think I might have one question here. I want to just make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, so we're going to start at the happy, peaceful ending, the happy, peaceful arrival. We've made it in our future. We've done the thing that we want to do, and we start from the end and we work backwards. So for example, let's just say I wanted to go to Eastern Europe in October 2021. Let's just say I did. What would I need to have in place by summer? What do I need to start working on tomorrow so that I can get to Europe? So I have bought a guidebook. I have reserved a spot with a tour company. I've started packing my backpack. I have looked at plane tickets. And of course, I'm looking for refundable ones, right? I need to break in my hiking shoes. I need to get my gear organized. So it's like, what, basically you start with the goal, like I'm going to Europe in October, and then you kind of work backwards to kind of create details. And we do this every day with our students. This is what we do. So this piece is not hard at all. And then the final and last piece, which I think is super important and really part of this process, is we commit it to paper, or we tell a friend, or we make it real. So my reporting process is this talk with you. I've just shared with you, my vision, my future casting, that I am trying to plan a trip for October. And so you put it out there, you kind of put it out into the universe, and you say, this is what I want to do. I want to create a nonprofit. I want to do a hot dog stand. I want to garden. I want to learn how to grow my own organic vegetables. I want to make my own pasta sauce, whatever it is. But it's like we report out to the people that we love and trust, and we tell them that this is the plan. And when you commit it, like when you put it on paper, or when you tell somebody it's real, right? It becomes real all of a sudden. It's like, oh, this has got some weight, because somebody's going to check in with you and they're going to say, Jenny, how's that trip going? So you're going to bring it to life. So that's my backpack. Like I literally rolled it out and put it in the middle of my living room. It's right now in the middle of my living room. Like I trip over it every single day. So you're going to write it down. You're going to post a note on your fridge. You're going to make a vision board. You're going to make a to-do list. You're going to wear your hiking boots. You're going to put your backpack in the middle of the living room. You're going to say, how do I actually tangibly, concretely make this thing happen? What do I need to do? And I really want us to take action. I don't want us to just be in this hope place of like, oh, one of these days, wouldn't that be nice if I owned chickens? It's like, no, make that happen. Go call people who have chickens. Find out, what do I have to do? What do I have to do to have a chicken? Do I have to build a coop? What do I need to do? Do I need to hire the chicken whisperer? What needs to happen in this process? So I really want us to bring it out into life. The minute that we start taking even the babyest steps, even like literally me bringing my backpack out and just rolling it in the middle of the floor, it instantly becomes fun. There's a joy, there's a sparkle, there's some realness. Like I'm putting action towards a goal. Now, again, I want to reiterate, October may not be it, but I'm still going to be ready when I get to travel. This is an example of a vision board that I took off the internet. So, I don't personally know what's on this vision board, but I thought it was kind of cool because there was like the big letters of like, make it happen. Like, I thought that was really cool. And I think right now in our down regulating minds and in our kind of depressed state, I think it's really nice to kind of put out this concrete sort of vision board of like seeing myself doing the thing that I want to do. So a vision board is basically like pictures that you take out of the internet or you cut out of magazines and you glue them all together and you put it on a piece of paper. I mean, there are fancy vision boards, but I mean, we don't have to pay money. We just take out like scrap paper and cut up magazines and we kind of put these pictures out there and then we post it someplace very visual for ourselves. Maybe we put it on the front door. Maybe we put it on the, kitchen refrigerator. Maybe we post it in the bathroom on the mirror, but it's basically a reminder every day of like, I am going to be a DJ in Ibiza. We put that out there and that's what we see every day. And it's amazing. This is like kind of an unconscious process. We don't even know, but it's kind of, it's kind of generating those fluids, kind of getting that brain going, getting that passion revving. So I would say that dreaming is good for you. I acknowledge that, the world events are kind of wacky right now and things are going to change. And right now we're in the middle of another weird wave, right? Every day it seems like there's some new awful thing that's happening. So, I agree. We don't know the future. We cannot plan for the future. We are not psychics. But I think what we can do is we can do the prep work. I think we can dream. I think we can have our backpack in the middle of the living room. I think we can put together pieces. And so that when everything says, okay, let's go, you can be ready. Then you can move forward. And so I think dreaming is good. I know a lot of people have told me I don't have any hope right now because every time that I have hope, it gets ruined, right? Like it doesn't work. Like things aren't happening the way that they should happen. I had hope around this and it didn't happen. And I get that. That's real. That's a real human experience, right? We got let down. But I think we need to up the pleasure in our lives. I absolutely believe this. And I believe that we need fun and we need joy, and we have been stuck. And so how do we bring that sparkle back in? Well, I don't know. Maybe we make the pizza sauce and we sell it to our neighbors. You know, we have to bring in that joy, whatever it is that sparkles in your world. And it's alivening. I mean, I don't even know if that's a word, but I just made it up. But you know, it's alivening. It's alivening to dream and to engage instead of numbing out and kind of shutting down. It's exciting to kind of put your dream out there and sort of do little baby steps that kind of, you know, make us inspired to do it. So let's summarize, because woo, I've been going fast and that's a lot of stuff. So the first step is we need to learn as much as we can about ourselves on this planet. That's just our job. And you know, I'm a mental health therapist, so this is my favorite thing. Pull the sweater, get to know you, get to know who you are. Get to know who you are at good times, get to know who you are at bad times, get to know what you value, get to know what you care about deeply. And this year, I would say a lot of people have been doing this. Like a lot of people have been doing a deep dive into like friendships, relationships, what has value. You know, I want to incorporate a 4-day work week into my life. Like that has huge value to me. The furlough, which started out being a problem to me, actually ended up being a blessing to me. I loved working 4 days a week. So like, get to know ourselves, get to know you, and then summarize that, put that into a summary of what you've learned and how you feel strong and powerful in your authentic self. What can you put your flag in and say, okay, this is me, this is my truth. This is what I believe in. This is what's important to me, and summarize that. Create a little summary packet for yourself, so that when you feel like you're losing yourself and you're kind of drowning, you get to say, oh wait, this is who I am. This is what I care about, right? So we can do this at any time. This costs no money. This requires no therapist. This requires no specialized person. This is just you on your own journey. And then we want to brainstorm. How can I serve? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing on this planet? What is my next big dream? What is it that I want to invest in? And so we're brainstorming. And again, we're not judging in that brainstorming process. We're just putting out all those ideas. And then we're imagining ourselves doing it. We pick one and we're imagining ourselves from start to stop, being so successful, getting the thing, doing the thing that we love, that we want to do. I want to build out my garage because I want to buy a boat. Okay, fine. So we envision ourselves, the garage is done, the boat's in the garage, and we've got all of our success of like, yay, I've got the bigger garage, I've got the boat. And we imagine it, but then we think, oh, but what could possibly go wrong? And there's a million things that could go wrong when you're building a garage with a boat in it, right? So we don't bypass that. We acknowledge that there might be problems in this building process, right? People could quit or get rehired. And as we're imagining all the successes, we're also kind of imagining like, how will I solve this problem if weird things happen? And then at the end, we fix it. We figure it out. Like, oh, I'll just hire a new contractor. Okay, it'll be fine. And then once we've envisioned it, once we've gone into science fiction mind, then we build it backwards. We say, okay, I want to get here. What are the little steps that I need to take to make sure that I get there? And then we bring it to life. We literally Frankenstein erect it, like bring it to life. We do little activities that help give it legs. We tell people, we book trips, we buy guidebooks, we get ready, we buy our hiking shoes. That's what we do. We make it real. We make it like not a dream. We put it in. So here is me in one of the longest standing theaters in the whole world, right? I mean, how long has this thing been standing in Turkey? You know, it's one of the oldest theaters. And I thought, wow, what a foundation. Like, what a way to end this talk with this solid foundation. And so what are we waiting for? Like, we believe the story that we tell ourselves. I believe 100% that I am a traveler. Like, I believe that. And so we live as if that story is true. I live every day like, when's my next trip? Right? Because I believe that I'm a traveler. And then we spend our whole lives making it true. Like, I'm constantly trying to figure out, where am I going next? So if we believe the story we tell ourselves and we live as if the story is true and we spend our lives making it true, let's make it a good one. Like if we live in the story of like, I'm this really sad person that has this terrible experience and my house got blown down and the wind came and destroyed my house, that's not the story that we want to live in. I mean, yes, it happened, but it's like, let's build a new story. Let's build it, because it's basically we become what we believe, you know? So let's make a good one. The other thing that I will say for the record is you have everything that you need to cultivate an extraordinary life. You do not have to seek outside of yourself. You do not have to buy 10,000 books. You do not have to go find every teacher on the planet. You are not in fear of missing out. You have it. It's within you, because basically it's in your blueprint. It's how you were born. You were born with like, you will go do this. And so don't be afraid to do and try what you're inspired to do. I'm not saying you quit your job and you like, you know, invest all of your marbles in that, but I mean, try little baby things that make you happy, because when you're being authentic and you're authentically inspired, you will be supported, because that's what you're supposed to be doing here. So I feel like that's 100% like the truth. Okay.